Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. We are live. This is a joint event, the Lean Construction Institute Community Practice, Northern California, with the EBFC show, the Easier, Better for Construction podcast. And I'm joined today with Elijah. Elijah, say hi to everybody.
Hey, everybody. How we doing?
We are doing amazing. And we've got people will be joining on, coming in, joining us during their, what could be a lunch break or late lunch. If you're watching this on the replay, we're definitely going to want to hear from you. And I'll throw up a banner just to see where people are checking in from when they go live. So if you're watching this later, just drop us a comment in the chat. Or if you're multitasking, driving, as many of you are when you tune into these things, don't message us in the chat where you're watching from. But I'm watching from, or I'm participating today from Sacramento. So I'll drop that in the chat myself. And then we'll see. That's that easy. It's that easy. where
Simple.
it is so simple. Yeah. And Elijah, I think you can drop in the chat as well.
Yeah, I will. I'm watching from Boston. I'll drop that in. I don't know if I can drop it in the studio comments. Yeah, here we go. I gotta join the chat.
Yeah, join the chat, and we'll see where you drop in from. Yeah, but that's great. We're so happy. And then while people are thinking about where we're dropping in, you might be wondering, what is the Lean Construction Institute Community Practice? So I'll answer what that is, and then I'll answer what the EBFC show is. So LCI is a nonprofit that I volunteer at, and I've volunteered for quite a long time. Still volunteering. I'm currently acting as the chair for the Northern California Community Practice, and we host events where we bring people together in our community of change makers, working to transform design and construction to make it better for everybody. And a lot of that's done through networking. It's done through research, from experimentation with real people, real projects, and occasionally with software. And what the EBFC show is, Elijah, got to drop that in because people want to know. The EBFC show exists to serve people in the construction industry. So we're aligned. It's like this. It's like the same thing, you know. We want to transform and help people. We got Roman coming in from Central European time, 10 o'clock at night. Yes, Roman, you get your rest and watch this and the replay later, and you'll pick up some good tips there as well. So yeah, get some good sleep. We'll see you when you wake up. Right, Elijah?
Okay, this is great. Yeah, great Friday night material. It's fine. Go do whatever else you were gonna do, and then we'll pick it up Saturday, Sunday. Get that professional development in. That's where it's all about, you know.
Absolutely, where it is. So I'm gonna take that off for now, Elijah. Let's slow down and do introductions. So if you're watching this, then you follow me on social media and you know exactly who I am. I want to share a screen so that people can see. Like, this event is brought to you by LCI Northern California, and I want to thank our 2024 sustaining sponsors. We've got Boulder, Bolt, Degenkolb, DPR, HED, Herrera Builders, HOK, Pixis, Rosedin, Southland, Stantec, UCSF, V Planner, and XL Construction. I think I've named everyone there. And you can follow us on LinkedIn. We've got a LinkedIn group where we share content from our events. So go ahead when the confetti stops, get your QR code out and follow us on our LinkedIn community page so that you never miss any content from our events. Like last night, we had a epic target value delivery session by the one and only Mr. Glenn Ballard himself, and some value statements from Patricia Tillman. But we're here today to talk about AI-powered construction Scrum. And on that note of AI-powered Scrum, you can see some upcoming local events. These are in-person events in first Redwood City, California, at DPR's office on Wednesday, June 19th, where I might see Elijah in person again, and definitely Josh from Roger. And then I'll be back to Sacramento on the 20th doing the same event, Future Proofing Construction, in HED's office right here on our street. So close there. So I'm going to leave that up right now. Elijah, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself now that I've taken care of some housekeeping, and let the good people know who you are and why are we talking?
Yeah, well, my quick intro is that I co-founded Roger. We do software, specifically lean software for construction. I think we'll get into that later, so I won't talk too much. The reason why I'm here is because you and I met first over LinkedIn, I think following each other's content, but then eventually we linked up recently in San Diego at the AGC conference, got to know each other, talked Scrum, talked virtual Scrum, and I feel like we've kind of been rolling ever since. So Felipe and I go way back to a couple months ago, and it's been a fun partnership since that time. So that's a little bit about me. Like I said, I'm in Boston, grew up here, really excited about the Celtics winning game one of the NBA Finals. To all our basketball fans out there, we're repping hopefully, and we're bringing banner 18. But that's really all you need to know, at least to start. I'm sure we'll get into Roger later.
Yeah, that's a good start. And I've got just going to test the soundboard, make sure that we're money. We got that going,
All
so that's
good.
good. Yeah, and then I'm the host of the EBFC show as well. I work also full time for the Bolt Company as a project delivery services director, specializing in coaching, helping teams adopt a higher lean intensity, and that gets me involved in quite a few projects, which is fun. I just love going to work, love what I do, and the people who have gotten to work with me. Thank you so much for partnering with me all these years and helping on my journey, especially with all these lean techniques like we're going to talk about today, Scrum. So I think
Hmm.
before we get too far, let's slow down and share with people what Scrum is, specifically Scrum in construction, and then we'll go into a Scrum board that we've got ready. So we'll start with just a basic overview of Scrum, and then we'll come back in. So while people are watching this, as you're watching the show, we want to know from you in the comments what you're seeing, what you're hearing throughout this. What do you want to learn more about? Because I'm bringing Elijah back to future live streams, and we're going to go even deeper in AI in some future events leading up to those in-person events later this month in June. We're going to just make June an AI month, especially I think it's the right time, Elijah, with GPT 4.0 coming out. We should probably
Hmm.
even ask at some point GPT, like, why'd they go with 4.0?
Yeah,
You know, all the things they could have said, but
I don't
that'll
know.
be interesting,
I don't know.
possibly. So yeah, so let's go and share. I will throw on the stage a new share so that we can hear some audio. And while I'm bringing that up, Elijah, what is? Can you share about your Scrum experience with myself? And you recently become a registered Scrum
Yeah,
Master.
yeah. So a little bit about my background. I came out of Stanford. I went into consulting, doing a lot of analysis around tech in the AEC space. I went from there to a couple startups and was running product. And as part of a lot of software process, Scrum is very important. So I encountered Scrum in the software journey that I have had across a couple companies. Interestingly enough, like we came into the construction space, me and Josh, my co-founder, who has commercial construction background, and wanted to bring a lot of those lean concepts along with what you've been doing, Felipe, into this space, help proliferate it. So recently, Felipe had me come in, and I got the construction side of becoming a certified Scrum Master, which was an awesome program. Would recommend it to everyone. And then I think for us, gave us a lot of deep insight into how Scrum is getting applied within the workflows in construction, and how that is the same and differs from building software at the end of the day. So it was awesome. Highly recommend becoming a Scrum Master, and was fascinating to do from the construction side as well recently.
Yeah, it was great having Elijah in the course because I often will get folks joining our construction Scrum course that were trained somewhere else, or
Hmm.
sometimes even a bad telephone game of Scrum. So let's just unpack what it is. Let's roll the video. I'm going to take us off stage so we can focus on that, and then we'll come back and talk about what we just see.
Construction way to begin.
Scrum is a simple framework, like scaffolding, designed to make delivering projects easier, better, and faster. It does this by breaking the scope of work, milestones, phases, and tasks into smaller component parts, small batches. Scrum teams use lean construction principles to focus on working closer to one piece flow, tackling one increment of work at a time, prioritization, and sequencing. After each incremental step, the Scrum team reevaluates what direction the work should flow next and what process is most efficient to accomplish that. Scrum allows you and your team to go and see what your project needs to improve in small cycles of inspection and adaptation, planning and scheduling. From the Scrum Guide, quote, Scrum is a lightweight framework that helps people, teams, and organizations generate value through adaptive solutions for complex problems. In a nutshell, Scrum requires a Scrum Master to foster an environment where 1. A product owner orders the work for a complex problem into a product backlog. 2. The Scrum team turns a selection of the work into an increment of value during a sprint. 3. The Scrum team and its stakeholders inspect the results and adjust for the next sprint. 4. Repeat. Scrum is simple. Try it as is and determine if its philosophy, theory, and structure help to achieve goals and create value. The Scrum framework is purposefully incomplete, only defining the parts required to implement Scrum theory. Scrum is built upon the collective intelligence of the people using it, rather than provide people with detailed instructions. The rules of Scrum guide their relationships and interactions. End quote. An easy way to remember all the key elements of Scrum is this: 3, 5, 3. The first 3 represent the 3 roles in Scrum: the product owner, Scrum Master, and developers, the team members. There are 5 events in Scrum, 5 meetings. The last 3 represent the 3 artifacts we create and use in Scrum, 3 things we can observe and also help guide the 5 meetings. Each of the 3 artifacts reinforces accountability via a corresponding commitment that enhances focus, commitment, and transparency. Scrum works as a system. All good projects start with a goal and a vision of how to bring the owner's project to life. That's what the product owner does. In Scrum, they own the what, as in what the Scrum team is going to make, based on conversations with customers and project stakeholders. The product owner creates a prioritized wish list of all the things that need to be done to finish the whole project. This is called the product backlog. Then, the Scrum team, including the product owner, Scrum Master, and developers, take a look at the backlog during sprint planning, the first event in Scrum. This is when those who do the work collaborate to pull in the highest priority backlog items they believe they can finish in a set period of time, known as a sprint. This shorter to-do list is called the sprint backlog, an ordered phase of work, backlog items. If this phase of work is achieved, the team makes progress toward the sprint goal or milestone. Once the plan is ready, prioritized and sequenced, work towards the sprint goal can begin. Sprints are the heartbeat of Scrum. Each sprint lasts from 1 to 4 weeks. They're short by design. A sprint cycle should be just long enough to allow the Scrum team to produce a meaningful increment of work in place that could be released to the next value creators or customers. No surprise, we call this an increment. Sprints should be short enough that the Scrum team can adapt the plan and schedule if needed based on customer or stakeholder feedback. Throughout the sprint, the Scrum Master coaches the team on Scrum. These servant leaders also facilitate the events and support the team as needed. Every workday, the Scrum team huddles together for the daily Scrum. This meeting should take no more than 15 minutes. This check-in meeting enables the team to track progress toward the milestone, sprint goal, and replan the sprint as needed. During the meeting, the Scrum Master helps the team identify the constraints, bottlenecks, or things that are making it harder to achieve the sprint goal, and will prioritize eliminating anything slowing the Scrum team down. At the end of the sprint, you have the sprint review. At this meeting, the product owner makes sure the right people are there to show and share the completed work and get feedback. The final event in Scrum is the sprint retrospective. The retro is where the Scrum team looks back on the sprint with a specific focus on the process, and they agree on trying something in the next sprint that may speed up their flow or make the process work better. And that's it. The basic 3-5-3 structure of Scrum.
If you enjoyed this video, be sure to tap that subscribe or follow button to never miss content like this for design and construction professionals. Thank you for watching.
Yeah. So
Slip that little commercial
yeah.
in there right at the end. That was perfect.
Hey, you like that? You got to ABS, always be scrumming. So you got to
Mhm.
show now we've got the full context of what Scrum is. I think, what we're going to share next is going to make a lot more sense to people that might not know, because Elijah, a lot of people don't know what Scrum is or know what good Scrum is at that. So if hopefully people watching, you've got it behind you now, and it is that simple. It is not more difficult than that. And if, we can overcomplicate life, but we're not going to do that. So I'm going to get this next beautiful screen on. And I think it's kind of interesting to note that Elijah and I, because we're both Scrum Masters, we Scrum this, and we're talking about where it is, and we're using this platform here called Roger, which Elijah, this is full time. This is his whole life right now, is making Roger work. But while people can see, we've got a really basic Scrum board on the screen here, living in a web app. Elijah, what led us to doing this?
Yeah, totally. Scrum really is one piece of a bigger puzzle that we're trying to solve, but I'll give you why we ended up doing what we're doing, which Josh and I, after spending a lot of time on job sites, we brought a lot of white monsters into trailers and just watched PMs, PEs, supers do their work. And our conclusion after all that time and the time that Josh had spent actually building buildings was that construction really has a process problem. That repeatable, standardized processes, right? Like they can save companies 5 to 10% in construction costs. And I know that number is high, but to you who's seen people 5x productivity via using a simple process like Scrum, like you know that that's true. And so that margin isn't outlandish in the slightest. But the issue really that I think we face today is like propagating those habits and making sure that those lessons and those behaviors get cemented among the rising generation as well as the old generation. And so, Felipe, you fought the lean fight for years, and the term lean construction has been around since 1993. Um, it's hard. It's like hard to get people to change behavior. It's hard to get people to try stuff. And you take something, and there's no value judgment on something like Procore out there in terms of construction management, but they started in 2002, and there wasn't even consistent internet on job sites until what, like 2010?
Yeah.
And there's a lot more Procore practitioners out there than there are lean practitioners, at least real lean practitioners. And the reason I think is because software is one of the best ways to change behavior, kind of, period. So for us, we saw our software as a way to support and help process minded teams and process minded executives, operators deliver these good habits that they have learned over the years in terms of their own business to their people. And we do that via Scrum, but we also do that via a lot of different workflows, be it procurement, submittals, tracking COIs, RFIs, all these things with the underpinning of being able to inspect and adapt at a really high rate, which I know is kind of the underpinning of Scrum itself. So that's Roger in a nutshell. Behavior change via process. That's what we're all about.
Yeah, and I want to add in the AI part just for context. Like, I just was looking at some numbers from the American General Contractors Association (AGC), and AGC says in the United States there's about $2 trillion worth of construction spend currently every year. That's where we're trending
Mhm,
right now, and that amount of volume of dollars goes through about 8 million people. So in the United States, 8 million people.
mhm.
And like Elijah said about the number of people using Procore versus just knowing what lean construction is and using lean every day, I'm going to throw you a number from OpenAI. I just heard this in a video this morning. OpenAI has 180 million users worldwide today. That's exponentially more than all the people working in construction combined. And so this is why I think it's so important for us to recognize and use software. Like we've been using more and more software. I remember being a young engineer, Elijah, and way back in like 1990 something. And my project manager at the time said, email is likely a fad and it's going to go away. We have fax machines and we're going to tolerate having these email accounts for now. This was in the 90s. This
It's
was in
wild.
the 90s,
This
right?
is wild.
This is wild. Like I built my first computer in like 93, 94 as a kid in high school for fun. And I'm thinking, I was telling my PM, like, I don't think it's going to be a fad. Like I think email is going to stick around for a while. I've heard a lot of futurists and tech people say that email's dead and that's going away, and it's not going away. Like it's going to be
No.
here for a while. I think there's more and more software in our lives every day, and some of it can make our lives easier and help us, and some of it makes our life more complicated. So I love your story about giving all these PMs these white monsters because they got to caffeinate up. It's
Me
construction.
too.
So while we continue to talk, I want people to be thinking about what are you hearing or seeing you want to learn more about? Because like I said, Elijah and I are going to come back. We're going to come back with some deeper AI conversations. So we want to make sure we bring it to you. But what we're showing here on this board, and I'll zoom in a little tighter so people can see. We've got we're answered already how we met. Elijah knocked that out already. We answered what is Scrum in the construction Scrum video, and a context for us, people who build and design every day. And then we're answering like the why Roger, and we're using Roger to expose our thinking on our Scrum board, make things visual, and hope we're demonstrating just how easy it is. And you can do this with analog, with stuff like this. It's totally possible, right? Totally can. But Elijah's sitting in Boston, and I'm sitting here in California, and this is just more effective to have some on easily available software to make this more visual for us. So this is our live stream tasks. I think what other thing have we hit of why Roger for people? Like what can you share an example from a team,
Yeah,
something like this?
sure. We have a great team, big ENR top 10 contractor, Southern California. You know who I'm talking about because
Yeah,
we onboarded their team and you'd initially taught them Scrum. But the value of virtual Scrum, like you said, is you can do a lot in person, but then someone's sick, right? Or someone
yeah,
goes off on their hunting trip, or like you're bouncing between SF and Sacramento all the time. And you just want to know what you need to get done and you can't pull it up when you're not on site, right? Or you can't add a specific piece of detail. A sticky note only fits so much. Like you can't put a PDF on a sticky note. You can't at someone to get them notified. Like there's just so many little things that the benefit of having something physical is just that visual reminder when you walk into the room. But then there's all these other things that you want to communicate in terms of context that having something that's digital is really nice, right? And so you have to follow that sort of that workflow for you and your team that's going to work best when it comes to not only communication of the task, but even record keeping, which is really big these days too. What did we get done? Why did we get done? Why did we get it done in this way? Or what decisions were made, and being able to revisit that is pretty hard on a sticky note versus some of these cards that might hold a little bit more information. But we do a lot, right? Like at some point we'll talk about AI and how Roger has thought about that and where we're going. But at the end of the day, if you're going to use Scrum, I think virtual is always an option with a lot of benefits compared to running in person.
Yeah, we recommend people that we teach. We often work with teams that are, if they're co-located and they're together all the time,
Mm-hmm.
like
Yep.
you could get a lot done with analog and like projects of a certain size. But once jobs get to a certain size, you're gonna have people not on the team with you. So you're going to be hybrid or you're going to be remote depending on what phase of the job you're in. So I always recommend get your Scrum process down so that you're just solid. And then once you're solid, pull in technology solutions as needed to enable your workflow exactly when you need it. So I'm pro I'm pro the basics, starting super basic, and Elijah knows.
Yes.
And in my training, I'm very agnostic on solutions, and then this solution that I'm gonna put back on the stage here. This is just very elegant, simple, and what we're showing you, this workflow of how we just came up with the agenda for today's live. This is all it takes to make it happen and put it into play. So while we're going to demonstrate some things, just let us know in the comments if you're watching this on the replay on LinkedIn or on YouTube. What do you want to learn more about? And we'll either tap it now if we can, or we will get it at this upcoming later in June event. And what we're talking about in June will be these events right here. These events being these future-proofing AI presentation topics on June 19th and June 20th. So look out for those. Follow the LCI Northern California community on LinkedIn for those. These events are live now. You can register. Registration's open, and we're even going to feed you networking, dinner, and a show, is how I always say it. Begin back to Roger. So I think we'll let Roger answer itself. I like to pull tasks across on top so that I could keep a record of how we actually went going down. So when I go back in time on a good scroll, but I think we should answer, what is artificial intelligence for people? Like, what is AI? And I'm just going to click on this card to expand what it is. And I'm going to put it on the Stanford grad here to give us the definition of what AI is.
Oh man. Well, I think it depends on whether we want to do the quintessential, like what AI is now to us as people who engage with it. Like, it is ChatGPT. It's, for a lot of people, it's being able to prompt and chat with an engine in order to get responses. And those responses are really just trained on information that's out there and available, right?
Yeah.
So if Google could talk back to you and Google could execute on tasks like that, at the end of the day, is artificial intelligence. That said, obviously,
Yeah. It's
20
nice,
years ago,
easy.
you asked about AI, you're training models and you're doing all this other stuff. But today, just go to OpenAI and say, okay, this is what AI is, right? I think that's easy for us.
Yeah, that's easy enough. And then you can also think about like what Elijah is referring to with OpenAI, ChatGPT in particular, is their brand. If you're using a Microsoft and you're using Copilot in your companies, a lot of construction companies use Microsoft.
Yep.
Copilot is a whitelisted OpenAI. So if you lifted up the engine and looked in there, it's OpenAI at Microsoft. And Microsoft's a massive investor. It's public knowledge. They're helping in the development and the funding of OpenAI, which started off as a research company of all things. And then another model, just to give some love to some of the others, Claude 3. So OpenAI, Claude.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Claude is super awesome. Anthropic is the company that owns Claude. Those are two large language models. So they're based on natural language processing. You talk to it in a little text box, it talks back to you. And we'll use an example because Roger just so happens to have some AI plugged in. But I just want to see, what do we have here in the notes? Is there something here? We got the sample email message. And we'll flip open just so people can see, like, and Google's got Gemini. This is what happens to be my home browser here. I'm just going to go to Anthropic's Claude.
Yep.
And I'll just search it on the internet like everybody else searches to get there. Right. And this is like something that you'd see. So here, I mean, they're just telling, because a lot of people, even though we said 180 million people are using OpenAI, here I just jumped onto Anthropic's site, and they're just like telling us, hey, Claude AI is for all of us. It's for Elijah. It's for Felipe. And there are differences between the two, and we'll cover those differences at the live event at the LCI Northern California Community Practice in June 19th or the 20th, depending on where you join us. We'll cover some of the differences, and I've noticed differences between the two. And we also use this in our LCI Advanced Scrum course as well. And you can try it. Just clicking the try gets you in, and you'll have to log in. And once you log in with an email address, you're in, and then you can start using it. But we're not going to use it, demo it today, just showing how it is. And OpenAI is the same. We'll talk a lot about that. So we'll just leave that. We'll leave that to you to go explore and check it out for yourself. But I think the thing to consider is, like, how can it help you? a lot of people, Elijah, and you talk to a lot of construction folks as well. I've talked to, people through our community, our network, and we're almost 2,000 members now in our California chapter. And LCI, just looking at LinkedIn numbers, says over 20,000 followers, from around the globe with chapters all over. Most people I talk to, Elijah, don't talk to AI, don't use it. And some companies have even banned AI. And there's other companies that fully embrace it. I have a friend who works at a large architecture firm, and their AI policy is 2 sentences. And unfortunately, I can't remember what those 2 sentences are, but it's very basic. It's, something along the lines of not giving away private information, proprietary information, and being sensitive to people's privacy is what their policy is centered on. In your travels, what have you seen on people's policies or experiences with AI?
Very different, especially among the construction industry in terms of there's this switch between excitement and fear, right? And there's a lot of fear and there's a lot of excitement, and companies have embraced a lot of one of those two sides, and both make sense, right? I understand where people are coming from. I think is similar to your story about email, like AI is here, it's coming, it's not going to be a fad, and the people who can find a way to do it in a responsible way, utilize it to increase productivity, those are the companies that you're going to see win over time in terms of the business they can deliver and the product they can deliver. So yeah, I've seen everything from we walked into trailers, and this is not an uncommon experience. We'll show that we can automatically follow up with emails, or that you can text our bot to create tasks, and there's excitement, or there's someone saying, but what if I asked it to hack into my neighbor's computer? And we're like, well, it's not really how it works.
Yeah.
And a lot of it, I think, just comes down to education and exposure, right? And that's hopefully what you and I can do, where we can talk a little bit about here's some very simple use cases where you can start to try it out, get familiar, and you just want to treat it like any other tool that you're trying to familiarize yourself with, whether it be software, whether it be in the real world. Just takes time to get to know something, and the only good way to do it is read a book or try it out. And here we are.
Yeah. So I think that's a good example. And I just I want to table some of the stuff and leave people hungry for more, Elijah. I want to bring this live stream to an end and let what people ask their questions and answers. And we've got a few people on, and we can
Cool.
take these questions later. I mean, if you don't feel comfortable asking these questions publicly, feel free to DM me on LinkedIn, or leave an anonymous comment on YouTube, and we will answer those. Or all my social media is available on my profile, so you can hit me up, send me a text message if you got my number, and we'll answer those questions later, and we'll bring it back to the future session. So I want to give Elijah the last words, and then we're going to bring this live session to an end.
Oh, my last words are just one, thank you, Felipe, for having me, and two, I'm really excited about our future sessions. Right, like it's hard to get through AI and what it can do for the industry in a short period of time, but I'm excited, and you and I think have both seen 5x, 10x for some people in terms of the productivity, in terms of their output. I think I know you've got specific examples of that yourself in terms of just even running your trainings. It's here to stay, and it's going to be awesome, and excited to kind of be on that journey with everybody.
Yeah, thank you so much. And we'll just close it down. Everybody for tuning in and listening, we appreciate you. Welcome, change makers. Welcome, change makers.
Cliff.
Yeah, take that. We'll leave that. We won't edit that out, because that's the beauty of the live, so it's real. I'm not a robot. It's been my pleasure talking with you, and we're diving deeper, and this topic will be something we're going to go further in with our community of listeners. So be safe out there. Take care, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.